I'm Ben Ryman, and this is Behavior Speak. Can you break down prepare, teach, and motivate? What's that all about?
So I'll start with prepare. When we talk about prepare, we're talking about parents being kind of proactive versus reactive. And that includes things like setting realistic expectations for their child, taking care of their own health as parents, fostering good quality relationships with their kids by lots of quality time.
Yes, so with respect to teach, we're helping families understand that these challenging behaviors don't come out of nowhere, right? They're often because of skill deficit or an attempt to communicate something. So it's really about what are helping them hopefully reframe as being a skills detective and understanding what their child is trying to communicate in the moment, or considering what are those skill deficits.
And then I guess is the motivation piece, is that where we're getting to the reinforcement?
Yes. Yeah, we have a whole chapter on reinforcement, what it means, how to do it, how to troubleshoot it when it doesn't seem to be working.
So our poster is about optimizing treatment integrity and supported living. So it's really a collaborative approach. Like Elena was saying, we have a operational team and we have a clinical team. So operational team manages the group homes, so the staff, the individuals that live there, whereas the clinical team kind of comes in and manages any difficulties that individuals may be having, right? But the problem is that a lot of times we can implement strategies, but there comes a point where if I give you the most effective, fantastic BSP, it's not going to be effective unless we have the operational follow-up and the buy-in. Right? So really what we did here is we wanted to incorporate all the operational side, and that includes the managers, the staff, everybody who kind of works with the individuals to kind of find the most effective way to help the individual. And with that, it was very much first our focus on data collection.
And what might you say to a student who's thinking about presenting a poster but's really nervous about it? What words of encouragement could you provide here?
Yeah, I don't like presenting either. I am very nervous about presenting, but my word of encouragement would be yourself. You did the research, so you know more better about the research. You're just explaining to people that come by about what you did and just getting their feedback, which is great. Just be yourself and just explain what you did in your research.
I feel like, it's not like 20, 30, 40 plus people are in front of you. It's just a couple people at a time that are just curious and they just love research and they want to know what's going on and what people did and what people studied. And yeah, it was a lot of fun, actually. I think I went into it a little bit nervous, but Kenny was right. We know our stuff, we know what we did. And so getting to talk about it and share it with others was really cool.
Welcome back to Behavior Speak. This episode is a snapshot of behavior analysis in Canada, recorded at the 2025 Ontario Association for Behavior Analysis Conference, the largest gathering of behavior analysts in the country. It's a mix of conversations, 2 recorded live on the conference floor and 1 recorded shortly after. But together they capture what the field looks like right now across different parts of the system. You'll hear a private practice team in Ottawa bridging psychology and behavior analysis, a team from Kerry's place in Toronto working to improve treatment integrity and supported living, and the clinicians from Progressive Steps reflecting on training staff in skill-based, assent-based care. Different settings, different perspectives, same direction. More collaboration, better training, and a shift towards practical, humane care. If you want a real sense of where ABA is heading in Canada, this is it. Okay, welcome to Behavior Speak. Tell me who we got here. We'll start with you.
Hi, my name is Conrad Leung. I am a behavior analyst at Child Solutions in private practice in Ottawa.
Okay.
And I'm Dr. Jenny Demark. I'm a clinical psychologist, also working in private practice at Child Solutions in Ottawa.
Okay, so same company in different parts of town?
Yep.
So why don't you maybe start by telling me a bit about what you folks, what Child Solutions is?
Sure. We are a group of behavior analysts and psychologists providing anything from diagnostic assessment and psychological treatments to in-home ABA-based interventions for kids and families.
And not familiar with sort of the Ontario landscape. Is it common to have psychologists and behavior analysts working together?
I think we are a very unique group in private practice. So certainly there are, we met at the Children's Hospital in Ottawa, and we worked together there. Psychologists and behavior analysts worked together in the autism intervention program.
Right.
When we decided to go into private practice, I feel like we were probably the first ones in Ottawa that it was a combined group practice of psychologists and behavior analysts.
Okay.
And I would say it's still relatively rare, even though it's a very natural melding of experience and skills
Yeah.
and goals. I don't think it's all that common.
So for many families, it can be seamless, right? You go from receiving a diagnostic assessment and then afterwards you go into treatment and services and providing intervention and skill building in the home. So that has been seamless, but it's also been great to have people to collaborate with, get a different perspective.
Yeah. So you do diagnosis, intervention, and then did you also provide, because I would imagine this would be a plus as well, sort of counseling supports to families and those sorts of things, because that's often a big barrier for services.
Yes, absolutely. We might do direct counseling or therapy with children and adolescents, but we also do parent consultation, parent coaching, helping them, parent education about their child's diagnosis, education about what behavior analysis is.
And again, I think maybe it's also different because we're in Canada, but I think historically there's been some rough edges when it comes to sort of psychology, behavior analysis, collaboration. I think that's mostly been our fault in terms of, I think some bridges we kind of burned early on. How have you found, obviously the collaboration goes well for you. What's sort of been the dialogue, the conversation in Canada and in Ontario around that collaboration historically?
Well, speaking for myself, I think I was trained by psychologists who are extremely behavioral in their orientation.
Nice.
Kind of growing up as a psychology student and, early career clinician and now to my current role. And I would say that's also the same for our colleague who's not here, Dr. Linda Reinstein.
Right.
We're just natural behaviorists.
Yeah.
Like we kind of joke that someday we're going to be behavior analysts so for us, I think it was very natural.
Yeah.
I don't know if you have.
Yeah, it's been a great process for me because Jenny and Linda do have very behavior analytic lenses that they wear. So we do speak a lot of the same language.
Yeah.
And I'm able to also pull from behavior analytic research as well as clinical practice to provide a more wholesome service for our clients.
And do you think the registration now of behavior analysts and you all being together in the same college is helping maybe bring the fields closer together?
I'm hoping, and I'm cautiously optimistic. Well, I'm optimistic that the differences aren't as much as people think there are, right? There's a lot of commonalities, much more in our field, and us being all regulated together, I think it just shows that additional cohesion and hopefully more opportunities to collaborate together.
Would you say that the perceptions of differences are more kind of within the field and not sort of the community? Like, does the community sort of see the value of the two in that regard? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think the community in general is still uninformed about what behavior analysis is.
Yeah.
I think they very much know what psychologists are. I think psychologists have a lot of credibility with a lot of people. I mean, obviously there's people who are very anti-psychology, but I think so with the behavior analysts joining the college, I do think that gives them a level of credibility within the province and to be aligned with psychologists. And I will say, like, psychologists, the reason this even got started is because psychologists were advocating for behavior analysts to become registered.
Well, that's something,
So I think behavior analysts, owe some credit to those psychologists who have really kind of championed who they are and what they do. And yes, like I said, I think it will lead to increased visibility, credibility with them now being like a regulated health profession in Ontario.
Well, there's one collaboration, then kind of the reason we're getting together today is you folks have written a book. So why don't we get into that? What's the book called and why'd you write it?
The book's called Complex Kids, Simple Solutions. We wrote the book to provide additional resources to families, professionals that isn't heavy in jargon and technical language, right? So in our clinical practices, we were finding that, or for myself, we were finding similar themes of the challenges that families were having. And so, we tried to, of course, we're tailoring interventions and for families, but we also wanted to provide additional resources that didn't exist at the time. So at that point, we decided, hey, you know what, why don't we create the resource together? Let's look at how do we create a framework for them, which we've called now Prepare, Teach, Motivate, so that families have the flexibility to address common parenting challenges and tailor them individually for their own environments. There's tons of examples, and then we've applied it. So we provide some of the theoretical framework for it with lots of practical examples. And then we take a deeper dive into each of the chapters with practical examples like denial tolerance, cooperation, screen time, emotion regulation, getting out the door in the morning as well too.
And so is this book intended for families to sort of just open up and start kind of doing the work themselves?
Yes, that is our goal. So the primary audience is definitely families. And it doesn't, it's not necessarily for families who have kids with certain diagnostic labels, but it's for families who are looking to address some challenging behaviors. All kids have challenging behaviors. This is part of the developmental course, right?
Yeah.
So we wrote it with parents in mind and really worked hard to make it, like Conrad said, like to avoid too much jargon, to make it very hands-on, practical, usable right off the bat. The first part of the book really does speak to what prepare, teach, and motivate mean. The second half is more, like Conrad said, the application to common parenting questions. So parents could pick up the book and just jump straight to the emotion regulation chapter. Although I think it would be in their best interest to, start at the beginning to learn more about kind of the premise and underlying ideas.
So can you break down Prepare, Teach, and Motivate? What's that all about?
So I'll start with Prepare. When we talk about Prepare, we're talking about parents being kind of proactive versus reactive. So, and that includes things like setting realistic expectations for their child, taking care of their own health as parents, fostering good quality relationships with their kids by lots of quality time. So we really see it as those antecedent strategies put into day-to-day parenting preparedness.
And then the teach.
Yes. So with respect to teach, we're helping families understand that these challenging behaviors don't come out of nowhere, right? They're often because of skill deficit or an attempt to communicate something. So it's really about what are helping them hopefully reframe as being a skills detective and understanding what their child is trying to communicate in the moment, or considering what are those skill deficits. And from there, okay, let's teach those skills and how to do so in a systematic way and providing them some of those additional tools.
And then I guess is the motivation piece, is that where we're getting to the reinforcement?
Yes. Yeah. We have a whole chapter on reinforcement, what it means, how to do it, how to troubleshoot it when it doesn't seem to be working. And we do also have a chapter on punishment because
I was going to ask,
parents, parents often are looking for some, an effective punishment strategy. How do I punish the behavior out of my child? So we felt like we had to include it. We don't recommend using it. We strongly believe that most parenting challenges can be overcome without the use of punishment, but you can't avoid talking about it because parents want to know. So there is a chapter.
So is the chapter on punishment more information, or is there sort of a underlying intention to sort of convince folks it's not the best way to go?
I think both. So we are providing information, but I think we speak throughout the chapter, these are, if you're only use these strategies once you're sure you've done all the other stuff, right? Because punishment without preparing, punishment without teaching is not going to work. One of the analogies that I love in the book is that puts all of it together is the idea of teaching your child to ride a bicycle, right? Which is something that parents do all the time.
Yeah.
And they know that they have to prepare their kids. They have to put on the helmets, put on the training wheels, do all of the, coaching kind of ahead of time. And then the teaching in the moment about how to steer, how to pedal, how to brake, how to put your feet down so you don't fall. And then the motivation is obviously lots and lots of positive reinforcement, right? We don't upset with our kids when they fall off their bikes. We pick them up, brush them off, encourage them to keep trying. And when they are successful finally riding their bikes, like we are literally running down the streets beside them,
Right.
cheering them on.
Yeah.
And you put on top of it too, it opens up those other doors of biking out to the park or biking out to a friend's house and being able to contact those other reinforcement contingencies.
Yeah. Is generalization a part of this as well? So, teaching folks some skills in some areas and hoping that they'll just bring those to other problems?
Yeah, so we do touch a little bit on generalization, ensuring that there's different exemplars, multiple exemplars, as well as, mentioning maintenance as well. Making sure that you come back to it and keeping that intermittent schedule of reinforcement as well.
And what was kind of the process for writing the book? Did it include bringing in some families, some focus groups, that sort of thing to kind of see, or do you really just kind
No,
of putting
that's an amazing idea.
Yeah. That's a good idea for the next one.
Putting this stuff into place and hoping that it works for folks. I mean, it's probably a lot of it's probably based on the work you've done with them.
100%. Yeah. We are clinicians with a combined experience of, 75 years or something. We, so the process was, long, and, we're still friends. But yeah, and it was also like, it was just really, I would say overall the process was actually very fun because it really allowed us to sit down and dig deep into what we do, what we all do every day, but we don't always like kind of sit down and talk about it in such detail, and then really working hard to put it into what we hope is parent-friendly language. Because of course we talk one language at work amongst ourselves, but we're really working to speak it
And-
normal language to parents.
Yeah, and the project was really born out of clinical practice, right? So I think that was our focus group. It's based on the things that we've learned from families over the years and different children and different staff. A lot of the families that we meet, they already have a lot of these tools, right? And some of it is about highlighting, okay, well, how do we keep these existing tools and continue using those tools? But then afterwards, how do we sharpen some of these tools and maybe even add some additional tools into your toolkit?
We're on ONTABA right now, and a lot of behavior analysts. I think it's pretty easy to imagine a lot of the behavior analytic strategies that are kind of embedded in here. I'm curious, how do we see the psychology influence in this?
Sorry, say that again.
I'm curious about the sort of where the psychologist sort of fits into this book, and what sorts of pieces you've added in addition to sort of the behavior analysis piece.
Yeah, good question. So we certainly bring a developmental perspective to the picture, understanding, also like kind of the neurodevelopmental things that are going on with kids. I think we bring a family systems perspective, knowing that families work together, or can and should. And then, and also, like I said, like we do believe as psychologists, Linda and I do believe strongly in the behavioral approach. So we're not behavior analysts. We don't always have the same terminology that Conrad might have, but we know how to translate that into working with families and coaching parents, because we do a lot of parent consultation.
Yeah, very really cool. How long has the book been out? Have you had some feedback yet?
So it's actually not even released yet.
Oh, okay.
The official release date is November 18th. So we're here selling kind of advanced copies.
Got it.
So we haven't had a lot of feedback, except from our friends and families who keep telling us how amazing it is. But we're really looking forward to that piece, is to get some feedback from people who don't have relationships with us.
And so November 18th. So how can folks find the book?
So that'll be available here at ONTABA.
Yeah.
They can check in with their local independent bookstores. There is Indigo and also the other major resellers available
Okay.
in North America and Australia, New Zealand as well too. And I would imagine in Europe with some of those major resellers.
Perfect. And all the usual online sort of booksellers will have it and whatnot.
That's right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
And it is available for pre-sale
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Amazing. All right. And what's it go for?
It is $38 Canadian.
Okay, not too
Yeah.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pretty good. Yeah, affordable. I think. Yeah.
I hope so.
Yeah. Like a lot of the behavior analysis sort of books out there can get quite expensive. You need to have a price point that's affordable to families.
Yeah.
Yes, this is not a textbook,
Yeah.
right? This is meant to be a family
Yeah.
friendly guide.
Yeah. Do you already have ideas for another project?
Yes. I hope there will be more projects. You know, we've joked around with some. So yes, this book is called Complex Kids, Simple Solutions. We've talked about complex spouses solutions.
Nice.
But no, I can see either a similar book for educators, like teachers,
Yeah.
would be a really good one. This book is geared. The current book is toddlers to tweens, is what we're saying.
Right.
So I could see like another one that's more for teenagers, parenting teens.
Yeah. Maybe young adults. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Amazing. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like, and one more time, the book title.
Complex Kids, Simple Solutions.
Amazing. Thank you both for coming on and telling me about your book.
Thanks.
Ben.
Awesome. All right. Okay, what do we got here?
My name's Kayla.
Alana.
My name is Tina.
Tina.
Luxie.
Okay. And who are all you folks? Where are you from?
We're from Kerry's Place Autism Services. We're clinical therapists out of the group homes.
Okay, in group homes.
Yes,
So
in
tell me a
York.
little bit more about Kerry's Place, what they do. Yeah.
So Kerry's Place is a huge organization, over 50 years old. They started as just group homes and they've expanded. So we have an operational side where we have group homes and we have a clinical department where, like for example, us as clinical therapists, we go into the group homes where we also have community. So then we're doing early education, early entry to school for kids, respite work, so many different social programs. It's a very large organization.
And group homes for adults, kids?
Adults. Yes.
Wow, that's amazing in itself that there's been a company around that long that's doing group homes for adults. Is that a big thing in Ontario? Because it's
The largest.
Yeah.
A lot of centers that we know usually provide services to children. Yeah.
so how many programs, give or take, do you think you folks support?
So Kerry's Place has a lot of different services along the lifespan. So like Tina said, a lot of companies, they cater just to children under the age of 18. Kerry's Place has programs from children from the age of 3, and it goes all the way up until their older age. So older adults are supported too.
70s. Yeah.
And is it all folks on the spectrum, or?
Everyone should have will have a diagnosis of autism. It can be dual diagnosis as well. Another interesting thing about Kerry's Place is we have in-house clinical therapists. So some group homes will call in clinical therapists, whereas Kerry's Place has a built-in system.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So how is that all funded? Because that's I wish we had that in BC.
Yeah. I wish I had more information on that. I do know that we are government funded.
Yeah.
We're a
Not-for-profit.
nonprofit company.
Okay, that
Yeah.
helps. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, amazing. So fundraising.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
all that stuff. Yeah. Okay, so what's going on here? What's this poster about?
So our poster is about optimizing treatment integrity and supportive living. So it's really a collaborative approach. Like Alana was saying, we have a operational team and we have a clinical team. So operational team manages the group homes, so the staff, the individuals that live there, whereas the clinical team kind of comes in and manages any difficulties that individuals might be having, right? But the problem is that a lot of times we can implement strategies, but there comes a point where if I give you the most effective, fantastic BSP, it's not going to be effective unless we have the operational follow-up,
And
right? The buy-in. right? So really what we did here is we wanted to incorporate all the operational side, and that includes the managers, the staff, everybody who kind of works with the individuals to kind of find the most effective way to help the individual. And with that, it was very much first our focus on data collection. So we saw in the house there was below 30% data collection, and with that, there's not much that we can do. Right. So staff weren't understanding why we were taking data. They didn't understand the behavioral part, the data collection, all of that. So that was our first focus, was to increase that data collection. And our first step was very much training the manager to understand what the data collection was, how to take data, training the staff on what data collection was, how to take data again, what their difficulties were. Was it the iPad? Did they not like the internet? Was it the paper data that they preferred? Anything like that. So really, again, collaborating with them, seeing what works best for them. A lot of times there's kind of this staff kind of see us and say, okay, they just know what they're doing, right? And that's very much not the case. And that's what we wanted to promote. It's, I need to learn from you guys. I need to learn from what, they're the experts.
Individuals.
I need to know.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about these staff. Like, what are their training? Where do they come from? Because clearly they're not coming from the same background as you folks, or they'd probably have a lot more buy-in to this stuff.
I feel like a lot of staff have like a personal support worker background, I would say.
PSW background.
PSW.
Yeah.
I feel most of our staff don't have that ABA background, so it makes it a little bit difficult as well, because we do have to explain why we're implementing this, how is it going to work, but we need that consistency. And so that's why that buy-in is really important.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of staff that we work with, they, some of them, English could be a second language to them as well. So a lot of staff coming in and working at these supported living sites, not all of them, they have experience working and supporting people with disabilities, but they don't all have formal training in ABA.
Yeah.
And that's where the clinical team comes in to support and provide behavior support strategies and formally train them as well on the implementation of these behavioral protocols and things we have in place. So despite all of that training and overseeing that we were doing for the sites, we were still noticing that there's been a lack of data being collected. And because we're clinical staff, we're not there. They're the ones that are supporting 24/7 in the sites. So the only way we really know what's happening is through the data collection. So it's really crucial for us to be able to have that. And that's why it's despite the training. And so in our graphs over here, you could see that this was when we were just collecting clinical treatment integrity. So the data collection was below 30% for the most part. And it was very important for us to get their buy-in so that they collect data. So in our whole presentation, a lot of the focus and what we've highlighted was the collaboration between the operational team, because the operational manager is also somebody that doesn't have formal training in ABA either. Yeah, so it was really important for them to also get their buy-in and understand.
Yeah.
So, I want to get into the nuts and bolts of the poster, but I just have a couple more questions about sort of the logistics. So, Kerry's Place, Autism Services, doing it for a long time, biggest company. Why the gap in training for all of the managers and frontline staff?
I wouldn't say it's a gap in training. I would say we've adjusted our treatment integrity document to be more thorough and detailed. So when we did that update, we wanted to also include the managers in that as well. And then also the staff to get their buy-in. So even showing them this graph to show this is what happens when we do take this data, right? When we do understand the operational definition of the behavior, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I wouldn't say it's a lack of training. It was just an update to our training.
Yeah. It's also, there's not a clinical team always in the houses. There's some houses that don't need a clinical team. So there's not a requirement for the managers to kind of understand what clinical is unless they need our support. Yeah.
And one more question about just how it all goes. Probably the biggest barrier we run into is retention of staff. Is that a big issue for you folks?
It can be, but we also have some staff that have been there for 18 years. We do have a lot of staff that do stay, but there is always going to be that. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Amazing. Okay, so let's talk about the poster. Tell me what you did, what was the procedure, and who was involved?
Yeah. So after we got our data collection buy-in, we had that increase of data collection. So that gave me the ability to kind of update the BSP the most effective way. So again, with that collaboration, with team meetings, working with the managers, talking to staff, understanding what's going on, we were able to kind of make the BSP the most consistent that we possibly can, because a lot of times we had staff doing it one way, staff doing another way, and then from there, that's what increases the behaviors, right? That's where we get a lot of that inconsistency, which then it's unpredictable, right? So it's also, some staff disagree with the way another staff is doing it. So very much having that conversation and coming to an agreement of what is the most effective and what do we all agree in. So after the data collection, we got the buy-in from staff. We got the agreement of what this plan should be. The plan was then implemented. And from our graph here, you can kind of see that once the data collection increased, we saw the increase of behaviors. We implemented the BSP, which we then all agreed on, and we saw that decrease of behaviors. Yeah.
So really, is this whole poster about getting folks to take better data, and that was sort of the big change here that led to better treatment integrity?
Yeah, and to also follow, because once they realize that taking data, it helps us make our strategies better. It helps present to the psychiatrist, if there needs to be any medication changes, because they're all about data. And so if there isn't any data, the psychiatrist is not going to back that up. So, and it's also like for support strategies too, right? So that's why we wanted to make sure that that data collection was there.
Okay, let's unpack a little more then how you get buy-in to collect data, because that's something we run into all the time, is that folks don't want to collect data.
So one thing we try to do is give it back to staff. Like, listen, you are the experts. They're with them 24/7, right? We're not. So we do need their support. Like, they can tell us like what happened when I wasn't there on Monday, like what actually occurred during this incident, so we can break it down together. Showing them this data, I've seen such a change in staff, because like they can see it. Because at first they're just like, this is annoying. Like, these behaviors happen all the time. Like, why do we have to take them? But like, then when they can actually see clearly, like, look at this data, like, it makes a huge impact for them. And I really just feel like showing them that they are the expert.
Yeah.
We need them, right? They're all great staff. They do great work. And some people do, like Kayla was saying earlier, some people do something different than the other staff. Their way might be working for them. This way is working. Let's combine those. Let's figure out the sweet spot of that support, right? So I think just, working with them.
I think also there was that educational piece as well, because a lot of staff at the sites, they focus a lot on bringing the individuals out in the community, going on outings. So for a lot of them, like data collection, they didn't think it was like a part of something they needed to do, because for them, it's, we want to make sure they're well fed, they're taken out on outings, they're happy. And like for them, that was like quality of life. But they then were able to, and with the operational team and the manager coming in the picture and explaining why you guys are like, this is why we're collecting data. This is why it's important, because with the information, then clinical team can reassess behaviors, implement interventions to support and decrease challenging behaviors. And when they were able to really rationalize the reason behind it and realize that is a part of their job, we were able to get buy-in through that as well.
Add on to that as well, another important component was the iPads that we take data on can also go into the community. You can still input the data without internet. When you get back to the house, it will upload. So I think that was another important thing, because we don't want to lose that quality of life. Like, we want them to still go out, and you can bring the iPad with you, so you can take that data. If not, there's paper data as well. We implement at some houses.
Yeah.
So tell me, how are you doing that? What were you using to collect data? Like, what's the sort of, is it like Google Forms? Like, what do you?
App called Insora, previously called Catalyst. Yeah. So Insora Data Finch.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So it's an online database.
Yeah. But even within the house, one of the struggles that the staff faced was Wi-Fi. They're like, our Wi-Fi is not working, right? So this platform is so important because it works offline, right? And they didn't understand that part at first, because they're like, the Wi-Fi is not working. Why would I take data if it's not going to go through? So even just teaching them, like, this works offline. Like, you can take it wherever you want. And once you are online, which eventually it does, it will get uploaded. We also did work with our IT department, and we did kind of fix the Wi-Fi a little bit. There was some glitches there, which again, I would never know unless I was kind of collaborating with those staff.
So a little more on outcomes. What was sort of the some of the final things you found out, takeaways?
So decrease in behaviors for one. The staff have been able to maintain this data adherence, which is amazing. And then we're able to see the behaviors firsthand and see that they're decreasing. So like, yes, this support plan's working, or you know what, we've got to tweak this a little bit because clearly that support is not working. So it just enhances the quality of life of the individual.
And have you carried this over to other programs?
Yep,
All of
all
our
of our
sites,
sites.
yeah.
Cool. So what's next for you folks in this project, or are you moving on? Do you have something else going on?
We're just going to maintain this, continue to do this, see what else we can do, maybe enhance our treatment integrity a little bit, but
Yeah.
try to maintain this at all our sites.
Yeah.
Probably do more trainings with other managers who have not been exposed to this. Exactly.
Super cool, folks. Thanks for coming on. This was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Maddie, Kenny, welcome to Behavior Speak.
Hi.
Yeah, stoked. So let's start by learning a little bit about the two of you. Why don't we start with you, Kenny?
Okay. Hi, my name is Kenny, and I am a senior therapist at Progressive Steps. I've been working with Progressive Steps for about 3 years now, and it's been a beautiful journey over the years. I work with children and teens on the spectrum, diagnosed with autism, spectrum disorder, and also ADHD, and other developmental disabilities. Yeah.
Okay,
That's
Kenny,
me.
I love it's been a beautiful journey. I want you to expand on that. That sounds awesome. Tell me more about that.
So yes, I joined Progressive Steps as a placement student. I did my bachelor's in psychologists from Nigeria. And when I came to Canada, I did a program in Durham College on addiction and mental health. I worked in addiction and mental health field for a while, but it wasn't just me. I wasn't really feeling it. So I went back and did another program, and I did autism and behavioral science. And my first placement was with Progressive Steps. After my first placement, I applied because I loved the work ethics and the things I was doing. It was so much different than what we were taught in class, although similar, but it was so good to see it play out in real life. And I got hired. I did my second placement at Progressive Steps, and then I started as a BT. I got promoted to a lead BT, and currently I'm a senior therapist at Progressive.
That's awesome. And Kenny, what brought you to Canada in the first place from Nigeria?
Yes. So I came to Canada from Nigeria. Like I said, I have a BSc in psychology. And in Nigeria, there is no, the clinical field of psychology isn't that profound. So you have to leave the country to get more knowledge or more experience on it. So when I came, I first did addiction and mental health, but I thought I was going to go into field, but it wasn't just for me. So I went back and I did autism and behavioral science, and then I loved it, and I just wanted to continue in the field.
Amazing. And any plans to go back? I know behavior analysis is starting to build a bit in Nigeria, so I know there's some more opportunities.
Yes. So right now I am open. I already applied for my master's in
Nice.
applied behavior analysis at Western. So after my master's and I get my hours and my professional credentials, I would love to go back
Amazing.
and
Right
get
on.
more knowledge back home.
Yeah, super cool. Right on, Kenny. Okay, Maddie, tell me about yourself.
Okay, I'm Maddie, also known as Marilena. I am also a senior therapist at Progressive Steps. Background in terms of how I got into ABA. So I did a Bachelor of Arts in Psychology at York University. And I remember I was in my last year and I was like, what the heck am I going to do? I don't know what I'm going to do. And so I had gotten a job as an instructor, not at Progressive Steps, but as an instructor working with kiddos primarily with autism in the field. And I just fell in love with it. And yeah, from there, a couple promotions. So assistant lead therapist to a lead therapist. And then I had heard about Progressive Steps and some of the amazing work that they were doing that I hadn't had the privilege of engaging in before. And so I was tempted and I made the leap and I came to Progressive Steps. I recently finished my master's in applied behavior analysis at Western University. And I actually just passed my BCBA exam yesterday, which is
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. So yeah, now I'm on the route to RBA application because I passed my exam. But here in Ontario, we are not allowed to call ourselves behavior analysis until analysts until we certify with the college. So that's the
That's the next
yeah.
steps. Right on, right on. Okay, you both mentioned progressive steps several times in there. For kind of listeners that are unfamiliar, maybe you can tell us a little bit about kind of what it is, also where it is. Give folks some context.
Yes. Do you want to go for it, Kenny? Do you want me to?
Yes. Progressive Steps is a company that works with children and teens with autism spectrum disorder, like I said earlier, and other disability. We also have, so Progressive Step, we have clients all over the GTA. We also have an adult clinic called the Progressive Life Center, and we have the center situated at Ajax, Ontario. So at our adult center, we take like clients above 18 with autism and other mental disabilities.
Yeah, and the center, we're affiliated. Kerry likes to say that Progressive Steps rent space from Progressive Life. So some of our Progressive Steps clients get to come and do center-based services, but they're two different companies. I think that's important to mention. Progressive Life Center primarily does not so much the ABA side of things, but it's like an adult day program, which is kind of cool. So it's a little bit different, and we get to be around the cool work that they do every day by being here. But yes, Progressive Steps provides, as Kenny said, around GTA, community, home-based, even going to schools, services pretty much everywhere.
Amazing, amazing. And who started the company?
Kerry Robinson. Yes, that is our CEO, clinical director, clinical supervisor. She wears many hats. Many hats.
And just tell me a little bit about her and sort of both said the name with a lot of passion, so I can tell she's a valued mentor to you. So let me hear a bit about Kerry.
I actually was talking to her about this a couple weeks ago of like, how did you start Progressive Steps? And it's interesting to hear the backstory because she actually started it as a consulting company. So she was primarily providing consultation services. And it was a tiny team. Like I think she had said that she only started it with one other person. And then the whole reason Progressive Steps came about was because during COVID, she noticed a big gap in services and a lot of people were not able to access services with all the shutdowns. And so she was like, okay, I guess I'm going to do it. And Progressive Steps was kind of born. And now we are a team of how many, Kenny? Like 30, maybe 30-ish. So within like from COVID to now, which is like 4 or 5 years, it's grown tremendously. But the Progressive Life Center, from what I know, she had written a paper about always wanting to start a center like this because she has 2 brothers with developmental disabilities. So this was always her. And yeah, you can kind of see how much we adore her. I think she's a great mentor and she wears her hats very elegantly. I don't know if you want to add anything, Kenny?
Yes. So Kerry, she's a lovely person and she strives in making her staff very comfortable. And that's one of the reasons I love this field. And that's one of the reasons I wanted to stay in this field. I don't know if I did my placement in like another center, maybe I would have left. But because I joined Progressive Step, I just wanted to stay. And this is the only place I've worked in this field. She's very lovely and she strives to help you make things better. She wants her staff to be trained. That's why we did our poster on like training other staff. She wants everybody to be trained, and there's a lot of like clinical judgmental things that we do at Progressive Steps.
Right on, right on. And I also see that Progressive Steps is a nonprofit.
That's Progressive.
Progressive Life Center is a nonprofit.
Yes,
the center.
I see. I gotcha. Yeah. Very cool. Very cool. And I always like to find little connections here. I see, just looking at your website, you're director of operations and people development. Jessica Bethel was guest on the podcast, episode 22. Oh, cool to see that little link as well. So that's awesome. Progressive Steps sounds like a really cool place. I know it was well represented at the conference this year, so that's awesome. So let's get into a bit of kind of why we're here in the first place. You folks had a paper, and so maybe you could start by just telling me sort of how this project came to be, how this paper came to be a paper in the first place.
Yes. Do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Yeah, I can start. Okay, so I don't know. I guess I'll talk about it in case people have never heard of it. SBT, or skill-based treatment, was started by a very famous person in this field, Mr. Gregory Hanley. And so we were fortunate enough with Kerry investing in our professional development to actually get certified through his consulting company, which is called FTF Consulting. And so that allowed us to do weekly training with one of their certified trainers in order to get certified in skill-based treatment implementation. And so most of our staff, prior to doing this training, we all knew what SBT was. We all were running sessions. We all had previous training, but nothing like the intense training that we had done. And so we were curious about bringing back a lot of the skills that we learned from our own certification and training and seeing, if it could really improve sessions. And that's kind of where the curiosity came was, I wonder if we train staff on some of these things and how it would go and what results we would see. Do you want to add something, Kenny?
Yes. So like I said, Kiriani is so invested in put it into our staff. She's really interested in making us learn more and be better at the things we do at Progressive Steps. And at Progressive Steps, we value treatment integrity. So one of the reasons Maddie and I did the training with FTF in the first place is because we wanted and we have lots of clients that were doing SBT, that we were using SBT with. So it was just really compulsory for us to do it. Thanks to Kerry again, she was able to pay for the training, and then we did the training. And after we did the training, we saw a lot of overlaps on some of the things that our staffs were not doing well and the things that we needed to train them on. And to also mention the SBT training or the SBT treatment method, every year there's something that changes. So you need to be up to date. So it doesn't mean that people last year people last year did the training with FTF, but every year something changed. So we need to stay up to date. And we did the training and we were able to see lots of gaps. And then we did training with our staffs, and that's how the paper came about.
So for listeners who might not know, what is skill-based treatment?
Great question. Skill-based treatment. So it's basically a method or treatment for clients that exhibit extreme challenging behavior, whether that's self-injury, aggression, you name it. And so it's basically something that we put in to systematically and slowly increase a client's tolerance, their communication skills. And a lot of them have a really hard time making small transitions. And typical ABA, you think you're teaching all these skills, but when you have a client who can't tolerate that, it's really important to kind of slowly increase those skills and empower the individual and make sure that they're learning when they're what people in the field called HRE, or happy, relaxed, and engaged. That's the biggest premise about it, right? Is you want to make sure that you're having a good time, your client's having a good time, and that's where true magic and learning happens. Yeah. I don't know if I don't want to get too technical with it, but hopefully that's a good definition.
You talk about building tolerance. Building tolerance to what?
I can answer that. So in behavior analysis, we believe that every behavior is a form of communication from the client to us. So with SBT, we're teaching communication in a way that when they are engaging in something and then it's time for them to do work, they're able to communicate my way, signaling to us that they want to continue to do what they are doing. And with tolerance, we're teaching them tolerance like a delay that, okay, you can have these things that you want now. Are you able to tolerate that delay for some time until you can have it?
Right on, right on. Did you have a thought?
Yeah, tolerance. I don't know. I was thinking about it as you said it. And that's not a great word, but tolerance to let's go and learn this thing that you really need to learn. And it could be anything, like leisure skills, life skills, stuff that they're here for, right? That's what they're here to learn. But it can be really hard to tolerate, oh, I got to put this fun game down and go learn this thing. And so, it's learning that yes, I want you to have that communication to tell me that you want to keep going, but I also want you to learn that we got to put it down for like 5 minutes so I can go teach you this really awesome thing so you can be more independent. And then you can have it back. So that's what I mean when I say tolerance. Yeah.
I wouldn't mind unpacking that a little bit, because I think you're right. I think tolerance is can be a little bit of an icky word, and I think it can steer people towards another icky word, compliance, right? And and they sometimes fall into the same boat. What do you think about that? And sort of, especially this day and age when we're sort of trying to modernize our field and move away from sort of these compliance-based approaches.
I think that's the nice thing about the SBT approach. And another word, tolerance, came to me because that's what I learned when I went into the SBT training. But the three main words, I think even when you go on the website, it's communication, toleration, and cooperation. I think cooperation is a better word. I think I'd like to retract my tolerance word and use cooperation. But I see how, especially in our the history of ABA, how, tolerance and making a client do something and all of those things were kind of used in the history of ABA. But again, coming back to what SBT is all about, is we don't want to what's the term that they use? Power through, work through the behaviors, follow through. That's the phrase I was looking for, follow through. I think that's kind of what historically is really used in ABA is we got to follow through, we got to do this thing. And what I really loved kind of learning about SBT was we're not going to do that. When your client's exhibiting extreme challenging behavior, they're telling you something. And so let's go back to your way and get you back to happy and relax and engage. And that's when learning can happen. And so I think that's where this is a little bit of a different and unique approach, because you get to move away from that, we're learning regardless of how you're doing. No, we want you to be feeling good in order to teach you the things we want to teach you. And so I think the field has moved towards that approach, and I'm really happy to see approaches like this that are happening where, we're not working through something that makes the client never want to come back.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think, to be fair, and tolerance wasn't your word, right? Tolerance was the word in the program, and even cooperation, can be looked at as just sort of a fancy word for compliance, right? And I know there's a lot of discussion around terms and also intention behind terms. Kenny, I'm wondering if you could tell me a little bit about because I think one of the big tools we have to sort of help folks see that we're looking at true cooperation is an understanding of assent.
Mm-hmm.
Kenny, can you tell me a little bit about how kind of assent plays in the process, but also just in kind of your daily work?
Yes. So thank you for that question. So with SBT, that's one good thing about SBT. We look for the assent with the clients in a way where we divide or we categorize some of their behaviors into two different categories. So when we see the minor behavior, that might be not responding to you, there's a way the therapist needs to respond. That's the client telling you no, so you don't have to force the client through to do all of the work. And we can get assent with clients because we're also helping them get in HRE. We are taking their lead. So if they are not ready to do some things, we are empathizing with them, which is very, very important with SBT. You need to empathize. You need to see and observe the client's behaviors. When you see those minor behaviors, you need to empathize and see from their perspective, basically. For those that I don't want to use too much ABA terms, but just empathize, acknowledge that, okay, I see that you don't want to do this, and just give them time. And with SBT, we also try to help the clients stay in HRE for 3 to 5 minutes. If we see those minor behaviors, we also give them time to be back in HRE. HRE means being happy, relaxed, and engaged with the things that they like, as opposed to things that they are yet to do or things that we want to teach them, basically.
No, that's great. I love that. And just as an aside here, I know you're going to have to use some jargon today. You're talking about a paper, you're talking about a study. That's okay. We just want to make sure folks have an idea of what you're talking about when you are. So don't feel like you have to completely avoid the jargon. So thinking about this paper, this paper is the effects of BSC, behavioral skills training, on increasing staff knowledge and treatment integrity. Maybe just touch a little bit on you mentioned treatment integrity before, Kenny. Can maybe touch a little bit on why treatment integrity is so important when implementing SBT.
Yes. Treatment integrity is important because, like I said earlier, we want to get the client's assent. So if you're not getting that, that means we are not doing something right. So we need to make sure that we are seeing those behaviors or those minor behaviors. That is them saying, no, I don't want to do this, and responding to them rightly, which ties into like the treatment integrity of SBT, because skill-based treatment will allow and divide like the steps on how you should respond to certain behaviors, be it in the category 1 or in the category 2. So we're not, and it also gives us steps on how many trials we are doing in a day, because some things we've seen it with some parents, or when we go in session, they feel like we're not doing much trials or much teaching because we're doing SBT. The client is just playing away on their iPad or doing what they want, and we're not doing more teaching during that time. So the treatment integrity in that aspect comes where we teach our staff to, like, if the client is happy, if they are relaxed, if they are engaged, there is like every 30 to 45 seconds you're supposed to be doing trials. So to teach the client to progress through the steps of SBT quickly, and we don't get stuck on one step forever.
Perfect. That's great. So, Maddie, let's go into the other big sort of abbreviation here, BST. So, what is BST? And first off, and then kind of why did you decide to study the effects of BST in this activity?
Okay, I was actually just talking to a staff member about this. BST, Behavioral Skills Training, is a way we use to teach a skill, and it's basically comprised of 4 components. So you have instruction, modeling, rehearsal, and feedback. And the reason that this is used so much in training, and we use it to teach all our staff members stuff, is because it's really evidence-based in teaching a skill and ensuring somebody actually learns how to use it and actually gets to apply it and receives feedback on it. And so we thought, really neat to use this to kind of tie it into teaching SBT or skill-based treatment. I'll try to differentiate between the two because we want to make sure, again, like Kenny said, it's really important that this is being run properly and people are following all the steps that they're supposed to. And so we wanted to use a really highly evidence-based and evidence-backed treatment or training package in order to teach staff how to implement this cool stuff.
Right on. Okay, so let's get into the study and kind of what was the study design? Who were you training? Tell me a little bit about that.
Okay.
All right. Do you want to go, Kenny?
Yeah. So, like Maddie said, we use BST, that's behavioral skill training, to check like improve staff performance on SBT. I know they're like the same letter placed differently, so I don't want to I just wanted to like explain that. So we use that on like 3 of our staff, 2 of them which are like new, like pretty new staff, and 1 of them like she's old. All of them had prior knowledge of what SBT was. They've done like I think it was 30 minutes or 1 hour training with the early training online on what like SBT was. They've been running SBT with their clients in sessions. So we were able to like take baseline on what they've been doing and the areas they need to develop. So our main Maddie, you wanted to say something?
One thing I wanted to add, because this came up a lot at ONTABA actually. People were like, why is baseline so high? Like, baseline is so high, that's pretty good. Why did you even feel the need to teach? And I think we had to really defend the fact that you cannot throw people into an SBT session who've never, have no idea what SBT is, because that can get really dangerous, especially with aggressive clients. And so all of them kind of went in with prior knowledge, but the standard of 70 to 80%, roughly around there, treatment integrity is not enough for something like SBT. But we can touch on that a little bit after. But if you want to continue, Kenny, sorry.
That's okay. Yes. So their baseline was high because most of them they were already working with some of their clients, but we didn't get like the treatment integrity that we wanted, if that makes sense. And also they had the prior training because we cannot, like Maddie said, we cannot just put new therapies to go in, work with the clients without knowledge of what SBT is, how to run SBT, because it's a little tricky. And also these are clients that engages in like severe like challenging behavior. So we want to ensure that these therapies have like understanding on how to like respond to those behaviors. So that's why they had like prior training to it. But when we did our baseline also, there were some things that were still missing out on it. How long they were waiting between each trial, how they were responding to like those minor behaviors as opposed to like the severe ones and stuff like that. And then we did our training with them, and then we did our like posts, like the what's it called? I forgot. We did another eval after our training to get like the if that's it.
Knowledge test. That's what you were looking for.
Yes.
Knowledge test. Yes.
Yeah. During our training, we did like the pre-test and post-test on like their knowledge. And the pre-test and post-test knowledge test it wasn't just based off on questions. They were like scenario questions on like, oh, your client is doing this. How would you respond? So this helped them, and this included, like Maddie said earlier, the BST, they had to like role play. We gave them feedback on their role play. So after all of this, we still did like the posters to see that are they ready or do they grasp what we just did in training, basically.
Copy that. And so this training doesn't involve actual clients. This is sort of just building up the skills of the staff, right?
So it involved clients in a way that the baseline and the after training data were with clients, but the training itself was with like Maddie and I and the staff.
Gotcha. Okay. And so how did you sort of score treatment integrity?
Good question. So Kerry Ann and Progressive Steps in general, not just with skill-based treatment, but we have a series of super fun treatment integrity checks for a variety of different skills that our staff member have to have. And so when we did our training with FTF, they have their own, like, what do they call it, Kenny? Integrity checklist?
Yes.
Yeah. So they would use that with us whenever we'd bring our videos weekly. If we ever did something and we were like, I need help, I don't know what to do, we would kind of go back to that integrity checklist and see like where's something that we could have improved on or done better. So we took that, and along with our old SBT checklist that we already were using at the company, kind of made our own. And it's everything from how do you are you ensuring your client is actually in their HRE, they're happy, relaxed, and engaged? Are you responding to different challenging behaviors correctly? Are you waiting the amount of time you're supposed to wait? And all these different components come into this beautiful, I guess, treatment integrity checklist that we created.
Right on. And now, according to kind of the paper, it sounds like treatment integrity increased for everybody during the intervention. So what patterns stood out for you folks?
The pattern that stood out for us was that, was that even though we didn't do the training with the clients, because each of them had like at least 2 clients that they were working with that were using SBT, they were able to like transfer those knowledge we did by ourselves with role play to those clients, and that would mean how to respond to minor behaviors and how to respond to like the more severe ones, and how much time they were waiting within each trials, because with 2 clients behaviors are not the same, so they were able to like distinguish those with all of their clients. And our baseline, our after like treatment data, we didn't use 1 client, we use like variety of clients, at least 2 clients for each person, so they were able to like generalize this across their clients, if that answers the questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
When I'm thinking about what stuck out to me, just looking at and I think this kind of even came to me when we were presenting at ONTABA, and the lovely Ellie Kazemi was walking around giving feedback on posters. And so she came to our poster and she was like, "Huh, did you guys do an error analysis?" And it didn't even dawn on me, and we haven't done it because we are looking to potentially publish this, but we got to do a little bit more work. But something that stuck out to me when I went back and I looked at all the raw data was the amount of consistency and like where people were going wrong. And it was like multiple, like all 3 of them kind of had very similar scores where they were not performing where we wanted them to perform. And it was some of the stuff that Kenny said, right? Like that treatment intensity, responding to behaviors appropriately, like really, really important skills that if you're not doing those things, that could like make or break your session. That's the difference between your client having severe challenging behavior and you're getting nothing done and having an amazing session. So I think although it's not a super big jump or increase in scores, it's still really important because skills like that, again, they make or break your session, and it's the difference between a client having a super hard time and having a great time and wanting to come back the next time.
Mhm.
Right on, right on. And so BST effective, what did you find? Was BST a good tool here?
Yes, it was because so how we did the BST, like Maddie said earlier, BST includes like 4 components, which is like the instructions, and then we model, and then we have them rehearse and give feedback. So we did like a whole PowerPoint because we've seen their baseline, we've seen where they're erroring the most, so we were able to highlight those parts. And also we did some modeling and then asked them to rehearse, and then we were able to give them in moments like feedback on like, oh, you responded this way, you could have done this way, and they were able to like do it again, and we actually gave them feedback. So it was really, really effective. Because it was before now, all we did, like I said earlier, before the baseline, they were already doing SPT. So all they got was like a written feedback or verbal feedback. So it was really great to see them in actions, role play, and then we'll do the feedback while we will play with them and have them do it again.
Right on. You also had a social validity survey, which seemed to have some pretty high ratings. What were the kind of the before and after there?
That was something that we didn't, something that we messed up on. We didn't send out a before. We kind of went around and like had some discussion that wasn't documented when we did our training, but we didn't actually send out a survey. I think it was like an afterthought that came out. And we were like, oh, damn, why didn't we do this? But we did want to see like, how did people feel leaving after our training?
Sure.
Because it was intense, like 3 hour training with each person. And we did it in like groups. And so we were curious to see after they sat and they did that and they did like 1 million role plays with different skills. How do they feel? Do they feel good going to their session? Do they feel like they took something from it? Did they feel like they learned something? So that's our bad that we didn't get our before data, but we were happy to see the honest scores after.
Yeah, it would be interesting to see the before data because it'd be interesting to know if they felt confident before as well.
Yeah.
And yet maybe weren't doing as well. And so sometimes you can feel like you know what you're doing and in the end you're still missing some bits. So what were some of the other limitations and maybe some ethical considerations as well?
One other limitation we mentioned in the paper was that we didn't do like maintenance. Like, we only did like after the training, and then we checked their score increased, but we didn't check to see like after weeks or after months were they able to like maintain those skills, which is something we should look into. Yes.
That's kind of part of our plan with like considering publishing is like there's a bunch of stuff that we still have to do. And so I think it would be cool to see going back in and doing another eval. Are people still going to perform as high? We had also talked about, which is something we didn't really have a lot of time to do, was collect IOA data, which is for people who don't know, it's observer agreement. But if we do get it published, we have enough, I think, of the sessions that are recorded that I could be like, hey, Kenny, I scored this one. I'm interested to see if you score it. Are you going to get the same results? And so we do have plans to do that stuff. However, as part of this paper and this poster, we didn't have that data collected, which I think is really important within research to see, like, do both trainers have any idea or have the same idea of what, good skill implementation looks like?
Right on. Yeah, and even if you could even bring in maybe some independent observers to watch some video that don't have sort of the bias of the two of you for going through the whole process. And I'd love to see long-term maintenance. I think this is something that's missing. I don't know if you folks have had an opportunity to read Louis Bush and colleagues' paper on sort of the lack of research we have in our field on sort of long-term maintenance, and even a few months maintenance is not really all that great. I'd love to see years. I know with Joe Lucician out at UBC, he has 10, 12-year follow-up data on some of the stuff, and so that'd be really. I think that's sort of been one of the another big judgment of our field is that a lot of our research is based on the effectiveness for and I think he found it was an average of as little as, I think it's an average of as little as sort of 3 to 6 days is the maintenance data that most ABA research puts out there. So really, we have no idea if most of our evidence-based practices actually work beyond a week. And so I think that'd be an interesting tool for you folks to look into.
And I think when we do this, it'll probably be a couple months, but it makes me wonder, is it because of retention and turnover rates in our field? Is it people don't get to see their staff that many years down the line? It makes me so curious why that is.
Well, interesting. And it's also, I think certainly if your staff aren't sticking around, that can be an issue. But I'm talking about a lot of the research around the participants being the clients themselves and seeing their benefits, right? And so, when we can potentially follow up with folks for years after. And I think also it's this need to sort of publish. I mean, and if you've got a little patience and you're willing to wait a year, 2 years, 5 years to put your study out, then you might be able to, get some more sustainable, durable results. So always some good things to think about. So what sort of message are you hoping practitioners can take away from this study?
That's a good question.
I would say treatment integrity. It's really important to have treatment integrity in the field of ABA. And that's not just on the staffs. It also has to do with the company. Are they willing to train their staff? Are they willing to do regular check-in with their staff? Are they willing to do regular evals? I have some of my friends that work in the field. They've never done eval. I'm like, that's strange. I do that on a monthly basis in progressive things. And then it's not about just doing the eval, identifying areas where the staff can improve, and then having them do the training so everyone can be on the same page. Everyone is doing the same thing with the clients, basically.
I think another takeaway is the use of proper training tools, right? Something like behavior skills training rather than just what Kenny was saying, giving written and verbal feedback. And I know we didn't do a pre-validity survey, but we did do a pre and post knowledge test, and that had a big jump, right? Our average score for the pre-knowledge test was, I think, around 56%. And then following our training, the average jumped to an 83%, which, having people actually apply it in front of us and being able to give them on the spot feedback and saying, you didn't do that correctly, let's try that again, right? And kind of doing those rehearsals until they met mastery within our training. I think that's so important, and people don't realize how much actually being able to see a skill modeled rather than you just giving an instruction and expecting a staff to know how to do it is a world of a difference.
Right.
Yeah.
You're muted.
Can't hear you, Ben.
Thank you. So this all came out of this year's poster presentations at ONTABA 2025.
Mm-hmm.
Was this the first time you had both presented a poster, or have you done this before?
It's my first time attending ONTABA, and it's my first time presenting a poster.
So let's talk about that. What was it like? What was that sort of experience like, presenting your first poster? And also, how did you prepare for that?
So because it was my first time presenting a poster, weeks before I didn't have, and it was also my first time attending ONTABA, I didn't have knowledge on how it was going to be. So I had talked to Kerry and asked her what is it going to look like? And she gave me rundown, which was practically the same of what but it was great presenting because you were presenting to different people, and different people were giving you feedbacks as opposed to presenting to a large group and then they're asking you questions. They had questions, but they were also giving feedback. And some of the feedback Maddie mentioned earlier, the error analysis and stuff like that. So these are things that on our own we didn't really think about, but getting the perspective of other people, it was really great. And then now we're looking to publishing this.
Yeah, I think what's different than, I like how you said, Kenny, it's different than, like a keynote presenter or somebody presenting, because there's not a whole lot of time for questions left with stuff like that, with those kinds of presentations. Whereas the poster presentations are, and again, like it being my first time, it was so awesome. It's so intimate. It's like however many people get accepted and everybody puts up their poster in a room, and you get to just kind of like walk around while you're sipping on some wine and eating some cheese and ask people about what they did and what the research was. And so I think, this was maybe my third or fourth ONTABA that I've attended and first poster. And I did more networking this year than I ever have. And especially with the poster presentations, like Holly Gover walked by and gave us feedback and asked about our poster, which for those who don't know, she's also a lead trainer with FTF. So she was really intrigued by this poster and how we applied kind of our training. And so it was really cool getting to meet some amazing individuals in our field. It's not a huge field. And so getting opportunities like this and getting to meet these people and talk to them was like invaluable. So much good feedback that made us so inspired to come back next year with more research.
Yes. Yeah.
And what might you say to a student who's thinking about presenting a poster but's really nervous about it? What words of encouragement could you provide here?
Yeah, I don't like presenting either. I am very nervous about presenting, but my word of encouragement would be yourself. You did the research, so you know more better about the research. You're just explaining to like people that come by about what you did and just getting their feedback, which is great. It's like just be yourself and just explain what you did in your research.
And it's not that scary. I think
Yeah.
that was the other thing. Like Kenny was like a little bit scared, and I was like, no, Kenny, like it's so chill, it's so laid back, the poster session. I feel like, it's not like 20, 30, 40 plus people are in front of you. It's just like a couple people at a time that are just curious and they just love research and they want to know what's going on and what people did and what people studied. And yeah, it was a lot of fun actually. I think I went into it a little bit nervous, but Kenny was right. Like we know our stuff, we know what we did. And so getting to talk about it and share it with others was really cool.
Right on. Maddie, you say you've been going on tap of 3 or 4 times now. What keeps you coming back?
Every year, I feel like I get really excited to hear who the keynotes are. Like when I heard it was Holly this year, I was like, oh, or like Ellie. I think it's cool to see such a variety of subjects talked about, right? Like this year, and just thinking about like my own clients going into it and like, who can I learn from that I can kind of take inspo from and go back and apply this? And so like this year's topics, like there was sexuality, food, skill-based treatment, training, right? Ellie talking about training, sleep, like just a variety of topics, different populations that it can be applied to. I feel like there's something for everyone. And I think they put a lot of thought into it and they really, want to get people in that make people feel inspired, ensure people are learning something. And so I think we're very lucky to have the ONTABA conference every year.
Right on. And how about you, Kenny? First time attending. Tell me what that experience was like.
It was great. So, like I said earlier, I haven't really worked in another ABA setting apart from Progressive Steps. So, it was great seeing all of these professionals, connecting with them, and seeing like all of the good work like ABA does. Like everybody's like, I was able to see lots of like progress, like even talking about like the sleep, like Maddie mentioned, and like the AI, ABA and AI, I would never have thought of those things. But coming to ONTABA, I was able to like hear about beautiful things that we could do with ABA, which is great to see and hear.
Amazing. Well, and any sort of final words for maybe the early student or the person kind of just getting into the career about the field, about ONTABA?
My final word would be, if you love to make impact in people, if you love to see progress in people, if you love to care about people, feel this for you. Like, it might be a little bit rough for some people right now, but I feel like if you find the right center, the right place for you, you're gonna love it and you would want to stay in the field.
Right on.
I think I would say the same. I have a different experience than Kenny. I didn't start at Progressive Steps. And so coming from where I came from, it was a lot more of like the IBI style, old school strategies, but seeing Like, I just left so inspired after this ONTABA, and I never thought I would want to do research. Doing this poster, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm all about research now, and I'm so excited to do more. But in terms of the field, I think seeing the progress you make and like how much you can teach someone and like the connections that you make with families, with your learners, it's like nothing else. And it's hard. Like we were just talking about this in a team training today. This is a hard job. This is a hard field, and you're going to have hard days, and it's okay. It's okay. Because what keeps us coming back is all the progress that's made and all the cool things that you can teach people with all these amazing strategies that we have in our toolkit. And I think it's just such a great experience. And the longer I'm in it, the more I want to be here.
Yes.
Right on. Kenny, Maddie, thanks a lot for coming on the podcast, telling us about your poster, telling us about your early career, teaching us a little bit about progressive steps. It's been great having you.
Thank you. Thank you.
To learn more about the great work coming out of Ontario, check out my first episode of live interviews with presenters at ONTABA 2025 in episode 254. To learn about the cool work happening in Ontario's behavioral gerontology space, check out episode 236. Episode 235 is an interview with the past president of ONTABA who invited me to do these interviews in the first place, the founder of Santana Behavioral Services, the one and only Jamie Santana. And let's throw it back to Behavior Speak's first year, where I had the honor of speaking to two amazing researchers from Brock University in Ontario, Dr. Val Saini in episode 27 and Dr. Allison Cox in episode 13. You can find us on Instagram and TikTok and subscribe to our YouTube page at Behavior Speak. And if you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.